Imagine being like the most successful person on earth. You have absolutely everything you ever dreamed of, only to look around and realize you've just won first place in a prison.
Right.
You have the nicest cell, sure, but you are still entirely trapped. Well, welcome back, learner, to another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, our mission is to unpack an essay that starts with, some pretty familiar advice about finding success, but then it rapidly accelerates into this massive existential challenge to the very nature of our reality.
It really does escalate quickly.
Yeah, it's wild. The piece is titled, Why Strive to Become a Celestial Being. It's written by Swifeng, and the version we are exploring today was translated and edited by Kinyu, dated October 11th, 2024.
And it is just a remarkable piece of philosophical architecture. I mean, it functions as a really rigorous audit of the invisible borders in our lives.
Absolutely.
The text asks you, the listener, to confront these boundaries that you probably didn't even know were dictating your choices.
Right, the invisible ones.
Exactly. It begins very tangibly looking at things like geography and your career. But I would urge you to keep an entirely open mind as the argument builds.
Yeah, you have to.
Because the destination it's driving toward, it really deconstructs everything we consider to be a successful human life.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand that massive cosmic destination, we actually have to start right down in the dirt.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. The text opens with this very visceral biological image. It's a worm trapped inside its cocoon. And the premise established there is brutal but very simple.
It is.
If that worm does not recognize that its time in the cocoon is over, and if it never struggles to break free, it will simply suffocate. It's going to perish inside the very structure that used to protect it.
And the mechanics of that metaphor are crucial for where the essay goes next. I mean, a cocoon is necessary for a specific stage of development.
Right, you need it at first.
Exactly. It provides safety, warmth, and isolation so that metamorphosis can actually happen. But the defining characteristic of a cocoon is that its utility has a strict expiration date.
Wow, yeah.
The moment you outgrow it, that former sanctuary instantly transforms into a lethal enclosure. So the text is demanding that we ask ourselves, how many structures in our own lives are actually expired cocoons?
Expired cocoons, I love that phrasing. And the text immediately translates that biological reality into a geographical one.
Yes, it shifts gears.
Right.
There
It presents this fascinating list of historical titans to prove the point. We're talking about Elon Musk leaving South Africa for the United States.
Albert Einstein leaving Germany.
Exactly. Sergey Brin leaving the Soviet Union, Enrico Fermi leaving Italy, and Madeleine Albright leaving Czechoslovakia, and Arnold Schwarzenegger leaving Austria.
A very diverse list.
Totally.
Right.
And the central argument here is that leaving their home environments wasn't just like a savvy career move. It was a literal prerequisite for their brilliance.
Yep.
If Musk had stayed in South Africa, the text suggests he would have just been, an ordinary person.
What's fascinating here is how these highly recognizable names are deployed to establish this universal structural baseline.
How do you mean?
Well, the text is arguing that true paradigm-shifting potential is deeply and inextricably linked to the spatial and geographic reality you inhabit.
So it's not just inner talent.
Right. Potential isn't just something locked inside your head. It's a negotiation with your environment. You cannot physically or intellectually outgrow a system if that system has a hard, unyielding ceiling.
That makes sense.
The resources, the ideological freedom, the cultural friction, all of these environmental factors, they either feed the metamorphosis or they starve it.
It makes me think of like a goldfish.
Oh, a goldfish.
Yeah. If you put a goldfish in a tiny little bowl, its biology will literally cap its own growth to fit the container. It will stay small its entire life.
Ah, I see where you're going.
But if you take that exact same fish and drop it into a massive koi pond, it grows to be enormous. To get bigger, you literally have to change the water you swim in.
That's a great image.
Right. So the logic here basically frames Einstein and Schwarzenegger as goldfish who realized they were in bowls. And if they hadn't jumped, their growth would have been permanently stunted.
That analogy works perfectly for the physical constraints of growth, but we have to push it a bit harder if we're going to follow this essay's logic all the way.
Okay, push it.
Well, a goldfish doesn't actually know it's in a bowl.
Oh, true.
The tragedy this text outlines is that humans can become entirely aware they are in a bowl, yet they actively choose to just swim in circles anyway, mainly because the water is familiar.
Wow. Ouch.
Yeah, the ordinary life isn't framed as a lack of inner talent here. It's framed as a failure of will. It is the conscious failure to struggle against the glass.
But escaping a small town or leaving a country for better career resources, I mean, that's one thing. What happens when the cocoon isn't just limiting your career, but is actively threatening your survival?
The stakes get much higher.
They really do. Because the text doesn't stop at stories of individual ambition. It takes this concept of the geographical cocoon and radically scales it up.
It does.
It moves from fulfilling your potential to literal life and death geopolitics.
Yes, the stakes shift dramatically here. The architectural framework of the argument requires extreme examples to prove that environment dictates fate.
Exactly. And the text brings in two incredibly heavy, large-scale events to anchor this. First, it points to the 1980 Mariel boat lift.
A very intense historical moment.
Very. The text details how Cuban President Fidel Castro deliberately released 150,000 prisoners, psychiatric patients, and prostitutes into Miami.
Right.
The intent was to basically weaponize these people to create chaos in the U.S. However, the essay argues that instead of causing disaster, this influx actually contributed to Miami's prosperity.
Which is an interesting take.
Yeah. But more crucially for our deep dive, it argues that if those 150,000 individuals had never been pushed out of their original environment, their fates back in Cuba would have likely been tragic.
So they were essentially saved by a forced geographic shift.
Exactly. And then it pushes the geographical argument even further with a deeply sobering contemporary example, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war.
Yes. It goes right to the present day.
The text states that nearly 200,000 Russian soldiers have died on the battlefield. And the logical point being made here is incredibly sharp.
Very sharp.
It asserts that if Russia as a geographical and political entity simply did not exist, or if those specific soldiers had not been confined by the identity of being citizens of it, this immense tragedy would not have happened to them.
I would pause on this for a second, learner, because we are navigating some incredibly heavy, sensitive waters here.
Yeah, we definitely need a quick disclaimer.
Right. Looking at these examples like the geopolitical maneuvers of the Mariel boat lift or the tragic, devastating loss of life in Ukraine, it's important to note we aren't here to validate the author's specific historical framing.
No, not at all.
Or to take a stance on these highly charged conflicts. We are not endorsing these viewpoints.
Precisely. We are examining these examples strictly as the load-bearing pillars of the author's philosophical argument.
Exactly.
The text is using the undeniable reality of physical borders and national conflicts to illustrate the sheer destructive danger of remaining trapped in a specific system.
It's forcing the reader to acknowledge that macro environments can and do act as literal meat grinders.
But, even understanding that architectural purpose, I find myself wanting to push back a bit on the logic.
Go for it.
Is the implication here that geography is entirely our destiny? I mean, if you happen to be born under a restrictive regime or in a war-torn zip code, does this philosophy dictate that you are inherently doomed unless you physically cross a border?
That feels very harsh, right?
It feels borderline fatalistic, like your environment is a death sentence unless you run.
That fatalism is a natural reaction, but it's actually kind of a misread of where the essay is steering us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the text isn't concluding that physical borders are the only problem. It is using these massive, undeniable geopolitical events to build momentum. It wants to shock you out of a sense of complacency.
Okay, I think I see.
It's demonstrating the mechanics of confinement on a macro scale to sort of soften us up for a much more uncomfortable, intimate realization. It is defining the physics of a trap so that you can recognize the trap when it's invisible.
Ah, I see. It's scaling down from the geopolitical to the personal.
Exactly.
Which leads us right into the philosophical pivot of the essay. Having proved that physical spaces can destroy us, the text turns the spotlight directly onto the reader.
And it issues a very blunt challenge.
Incredibly blunt. It asks, ask yourself what is trapping you, and then it drops this absolute definition. Whatever confines you is a prison. No matter its form, anything that traps you is a prison.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the exact moment the essay transcends mere relocation. It completely deconstructs human ambition.
Yeah, it really takes a hammer to it.
You might be listening to this right now, learner, sitting in a nice office, thinking you are completely free because you aren't literally behind bars or because you aren't trapped in a war zone.
Right.
But this text argues that if your mind is confined by your 9-to-5 job, your desperate need to maintain social status, your daily routine, or even your own mental anxieties, you are incarcerated.
You just can't see the bars.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text refuses to offer any comforting middle ground. It outlines three, and strictly three, choices for anyone who finds themselves in a prison, physical or metaphorical.
And what are they?
Choice number one, escape the prison. Choice number two, endure suffering while waiting for your sentence to end. Or choice number three, die within the prison walls.
Notice what is missing from that list.
Right. There is absolutely no make the best of it option.
Exactly. There is no modern grind set option where you decorate your cell, practice mindfulness to tolerate the guards, and learn to love the confinement.
No toxic positivity allowed here.
None. The text violently strips away all the coping mechanisms and comforting illusions we build to tolerate lives we secretly feel suffocated by. It categorizes endurance not as a virtue, but as a form of suffering.
And it goes even further to dismantle our coping mechanisms. The text explicitly asserts that if you do not choose choice number one, if you do not break free, then absolutely everything you do is in vain.
Yes, all of it.
Any status, fame, wealth, or earthly achievement you manage to attain while imprisoned will eventually dissipate, in the essay's words, like smoke in the wind.
That phrasing is devastatingly intentional.
Smoke in the wind.
Why does it become smoke? Because succeeding at the rules of a confined system does not change the nature of the system.
Wow.
You can spend 80 years building a massive corporate empire, getting famous, accumulating hundreds of millions of dollars. But if you achieved all of that from inside a societal or mental cocoon you never bothered to identify and break out of, it counts for nothing in the grand scheme.
You just became the wealthiest inmate.
Exactly. You became the most famous inmate. But fundamentally, your identity remains inmate.
It is such a heavy psychological blow to realize that what we call legacy might just be redecorating a jail cell.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
And this realization that earthly success within any confined system is ultimately meaningless is what forces the massive existential leap in the text's logic.
A final pivot.
Because if my job is a prison and my city is a prison and my desire for fame is a prison and my country is a prison, what is actually left?
Right. Where do you go?
What constitutes true freedom if the entire physical world is just variations of a cell?
This is where the essay reaches its climax. The text identifies what it considers to be the two absolute, inescapable prisons of our existence.
I'm bracing myself.
The physical body and the earth itself.
That is an unbelievable escalation. I mean, we went from Elon Musk needs to move to America for better resources all the way to your physical biology is a cage.
It sounds wild, but follow the mechanics of the cocoon we established earlier. Your physical body nurtures your consciousness, right?
Yeah.
But eventually, biology becomes a limitation. The body decays. It requires constant maintenance through food and sleep. It is bound by gravity, and it is ultimately entirely vulnerable to destruction.
Okay, I see the logic.
And the Earth, similarly, is a closed system. No matter how much you travel, you are bound to its atmosphere and its rules. If you accept the premise that anything that confines you is a prison, then biology and gravity are the ultimate wardens.
The ultimate wardens. And the text states that if you do not escape these two ultimate prisons, you will remain a prisoner for life. Which brings us back to that idea of the wealthy inmate.
Yes.
The text says that even if you become an emperor, a president, or a globally admired billionaire, you are merely a high-ranking prisoner.
A high-ranking prisoner.
The only distinction among humanity in this view is whether you are a high-ranking prisoner, a low-ranking prisoner, a famous prisoner, or an unknown prisoner.
Let's unpack the psychology of the high-ranking prisoner, because it's honestly the most insidious trap of all. Well, a low-ranking prisoner knows they are in prison. The suffering is obvious, right?
They want out.
But a high-ranking prisoner has the best food in the cafeteria, the most comfortable cot, and the deference of the other inmates. The illusion of agency is incredibly strong.
Oh, that is dangerous.
But when the lights go out, the doors still lock. The high-ranking prisoner defends the prison because the prison validates their status.
That makes me think of playing a hyper-realistic open world video game in virtual reality.
Okay, VR.
Yeah. Imagine, learner, you are playing this game and you grind for thousands of hours. You buy all the digital real estate, you become the absolute ruler of the digital world. Every NPC bows to you.
You've won the game.
Right. But you completely forgot that you have a heavy piece of plastic strapped to your face in your living room.
Yeah.
You are unquestionably in the game, but you are still entirely trapped in the simulation.
That's a perfect analogy.
Being a billionaire, according to this logic, is just having the highest score in the VR game.
This raises an important question, which the text answers with its ultimate cosmic conclusion. If the body and the earth are the final prisons, and if taking off the VR headset is the only way to truly win, well, how do you do that?
Yeah, what's the alternative?
What is the logical alternative to being a high-ranking prisoner? The text concludes that the ultimate singular pursuit in life must be to strive to become a celestial being.
Becoming a celestial being, that is the final destination of the essay.
That's it.
To transcend earthly desires, to push past the biological constraints, and to aim for a state of existence entirely free from physical confinement.
And what is remarkable is how pragmatically the text handles this wildly metaphysical goal.
Really? Pragmatic.
Yeah, it doesn't offer a step-by-step manual for achieving celestial status, and it actively admits that striving for it doesn't guarantee success. It is not a sure thing.
Okay, so it's a gamble.
But it argues that the pursuit itself provides the only valid source of hope. Because if you look at the alternative, if you don't strive to escape the ultimate prisons of biology and Earth, then despair is the only mathematically certain outcome.
Because the final destination of the physical body is death.
Precisely. If you only play by the rules of the physical prison, your story ends when the prison reclaims your body.
It's game over.
If you do not aim your trajectory beyond the closed system, your achievements turn to smoke and you die in the cell. Striving to become a celestial being is the only trajectory that points toward the possibility of a broken cocoon.
So what does this all mean? We've traveled a massive intellectual distance today.
We really have.
We started with this very tangible, practical concept of leaving your hometown to unlock your career potential. Looking at figures like Einstein and analyzing the geopolitical mechanics of the Mariel boat lift.
And then we zoomed out.
Yeah, we followed that exact same thread, scaling it up and up, recognizing the mental and societal prisons we build for ourselves. And finally, we followed it to the absolute cosmic limit, the idea of leaving your very biology behind to find true, absolute spiritual liberation.
It is a profound progression of logic. And I think the real actionable value of engaging with a text like this, whether or not you, as the listener, personally adopt the metaphysical pursuit of becoming a celestial being, is that it serves as a relentless audit of your current reality.
It forces you to pay attention.
It demands that you stop, look around your daily existence, and ask the hard questions. What are the invisible cocoons currently suffocating your potential?
Right.
What are you accepting as just the way things are, when in reality it's a prison you've forgotten how to struggle against? Are you prioritizing high-ranking status inside a confined system over the terrifying but necessary struggle for actual freedom?
It forces you to look at your calendar, your long-term ambitions, and your daily anxieties, and genuinely ask, is all this effort just smoke in the wind? It entirely reevaluates what we consider to be a brilliant, successful life.
It changes the whole metric.
It really does. Well, Lerner, we want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been an incredible journey unpacking the architecture of these ideas with you.
Thanks for listening.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to chew on. We've followed this text's logic all the way to the end. Whatever confines you is a prison. You have to break the cocoon, and you must constantly strive for that ultimate celestial escape.
Right.
But you have to wonder, if you spend your entire life consumed by the desperate, relentless desire to escape, could that obsession with escaping become just another prison itself? Are you still just a worm thrashing inside a cocoon of your own making? Something to think about. Until next time.